The stars hung still over Vale. No flicker of war. No hum of tension. Just the vast silence of a system no one had claimed, until now. Captain Elara Miles sat on the bridge of the TS Vanguard, one boot propped against the bulkhead, arms crossed as her crew ran final diagnostics. The Vanguard, a beast of Terran engineering, had all the charm of a gunmetal cathedral, and the subtlety of a loaded railgun. Skin sweep complete, Lieutenant Ramos reported from the sensor station. Systems quiet. No movement since last cycle. Just us and a few mining drones chewing asteroid ice. Elara nodded, not looking up. Keep the drills warm. The quiet never lasts. She wasn't wrong. 12 minutes later, alarms whispered across the bridge, soft, pulsing. No panic. Not on this ship. But every officer leaned forward. Multiple warp signatures just breached, Ramos said. 12, no 17 ships. Unknown configuration. No IFF. Big ones? Elara sat up, unhooking her harness. Range? 8 million clicks. Holding pattern. They didn't jump right on top of us, they're staging. Smart, she muttered. Too smart for pirates. Commander Dresch, her XO, stepped beside her. Could be Kartari Confederation. Or a black market fleet running old Republic drives. No. This is military, she said. Too clean. Too bold. The lights dimmed slightly as the ship adjusted power draw. Shields raised silently. Weapon bays slid open with a hiss. Then the hail came. A projection burst into view, a towering figure draped in shimmering robes of metallic gold, his eyes glowing faintly with augmentation. His voice echoed with false grandeur. I am High Lord Vraxilian Theruin of the Galactic Empire. This system lies within the historic dominion of His Radiant Majesty. You trespass. Withdraw your vessels immediately or be cleansed by fire. The message ended. No room for negotiation. No second offer. Elara exhaled through her nose. Well, he's pleasant. Dresch grinned. Think he rehearsed that in front of a mirror? Bet he wears perfume on the bridge. Orders, Captain? She stood. Send a reply. Wideband. Make sure he knows it's not automated. Ramos looked up. What do you want it to say? Elara tapped her chin. Let's keep it classy. She stepped to the front of the bridge. The recording light turned green. This is Captain Elara Miles of the Terran Union ship Vanguard. You've entered a system currently under survey and development by the Terran Union. We don't recognize your territorial claims. If you'd like to discuss resource sharing, send a diplomat. If you're here to posture, don't. She paused, smiled faintly. We don't kneel. But we're good at kneecaps. Recording ended. Message sent. The bridge stayed silent a beat longer than usual. Then chuckles, low and tense. They'll love that back at command, Dresch said. Command gave us a quiet assignment and told us not to cause trouble, Elara replied. They didn't say anything about handling trouble when it finds us. 2 hours later, the Empire's response came. It wasn't a message. It was a ship. A single cruiser, sleek, grand, more ceremonial than practical, peeled away from the formation and began burning toward the Vanguard at combat velocity. No formation. No escort. Ramos muttered. Are they seriously sending a single ship at us? They think it's enough? It's a performance, Elara said. They think it'll scare us. Should we warn them? Elara leaned back in her command seat, eyes narrowing. No. Rules of engagement? Disable. Not destroy. Let them limp home humiliated. She keyed her mic. Weapons prep magnetic slugs. Target engine cluster and comms array. Full ECM bloom on impact. Let's make sure they remember the silence that follows. Aye, Captain, replied the gunnery chief. The crew watched in eerie calm as the Imperial cruiser closed the distance. Target lock established, Ramos whispered. Fire. 3 kinetic rounds launched at relativistic speed. No lights. No sound. No ceremony. The cruiser was struck mid-burn. Its rear thrusters vanished in a cloud of vented plasma. Seconds later, the comms array flickered, then died. No return fire. No evasive maneuvers. The ship drifted in silence. Elara stared at the tactical display. Status? Ramos. Engine disabled. No life support breach. Power still active. They're alive. Good. Let them think about it. Back in her quarters, Elara reviewed the comm logs. No new threats. No requests for negotiation. Just quiet, eerily quiet. Dresh pinged her door. Got a moment? Always. He stepped inside. Command sent a ping. They're concerned. About? You. About provoking a hostile empire without clearance. I didn't provoke them. I denied a trespassing order. They wanted a light show. We gave them a blackout. Elara smiled. Maybe they'll rethink their wardrobe choices next time. Dresh laughed, but it faded quickly. You think they're done? No. That was their handshake. The next one won't be alone. Out in the void, 17 Imperial ships hovered like vultures above the system's belt. Their wounded cruiser limped back on auxiliary thrusters, trailing sparks like blood in water. Inside his command chamber, Vraxilian paced. They laughed. They didn't even respond with honor. They mocked us. One of his officers, a feathered being with bright amber eyes, spoke carefully. Their weapons, we underestimated them. Vraxilian's glare shut him up. I want the next wave ready. This time, we don't teach them. He snarled. We erase them. Meanwhile, Elara stood alone on the observation deck, arms folded, eyes fixed on the distant stars. The quiet shimmered, electric with unseen threats. Her reflection whispered back. They think they've seen human war. She muttered. They haven't. The Empire returned with confidence. Not haste. Not caution. Confidence. The kind that came from centuries of winning wars by simply showing up. 17 ships became 43. They arrived in disciplined waves, slipping out of warp like statues being unveiled. Massive hulls gleamed with ceremonial plating. Banners of hard light shimmered along their spines. The formation alone was meant to crush resolve. On the vanguard, no one clapped. Ramos broke the silence. That's a fleet, Captain. Heavy cruisers, escort frigates, command carrier dead center. They're broadcasting on all channels. Elara didn't sit. She stood with her hands clasped behind her back, eyes scanning the tactical overlay. They're forming a crescent. Textbook intimidation arc. Dresh tilted his head. They expect us to fold inward. Panic. Retreat. Humans don't retreat from threats, Elara said. We retreat from bad odds. These aren't the same thing. The hologram snapped on without invitation. High Lord Vraxilian filled the air again, polished, furious, and absolutely certain of himself. You have committed an insult against the Galactic Empire, he intoned. Your earlier act of sabotage will be forgiven if you comply now. Withdraw all Terran vessels from Vaelthura. This is your final opportunity. Elara stepped forward, resting one hand on the railing. You sent one ship, she said calmly. We sent it back breathing. That was mercy. Vraxilian's mandibles twitched. You mistake weakness for kindness. No, Elara replied. We mistake arrogance for inexperience. The channel cut. Ramos exhaled. That went well. The Empire moved first, but not with weapons. A single Imperial destroyer broke formation and advanced. Shields flared bright. Weapon ports remained sealed. They're not firing, Dresh observed. Looks like a demonstration, Elara finished. They want to scare us into compliance. The destroyer fired a high-energy lance, not at the vanguard, but across her bow. Space rippled. Radiation bled across the sensors. A warning shot. Several junior officers stiffened. One swore under their breath. Elara didn't blink. Helm, hold position. Captain. Hold. The destroyer fired again. Closer this time. Elara tapped her console. Weapons, you're clear. Disable only. Aye. The Vanguard didn't charge. Didn't flare shields. Didn't respond theatrically. Instead, space around the advancing destroyer bent. The Empire's sensors screamed too late. ECM ghosts bloomed like phantoms, false targets, echo hulls, warp signatures. The destroyer's targeting system scrambled, locking onto shadows that didn't exist. Then the railgun spoke. 3 slugs. Perfect timing. Perfect placement. The destroyer's forward shields collapsed with a soundless flash. Its port engine vanished in a spray of molten metal. The ship lurched, systems cascading into failure. The engagement lasted 8 seconds. Silence followed. Ramos stared at the readout. They're adrift. No weapons. No propulsion. Life support stable. On the Empire's command carrier, panic rippled through the bridge. They struck without warning. They bypassed our shields. Our targeting systems, High Lord, we lost control. Vraxilian slammed a clawed fist into the console. Silence! They struck dishonorably. Back on the Vanguard, Dresh let out a slow breath. That'll sting. Elara nodded once. Now comes the part where they decide whether pride matters more than survival. It mattered more. Imperial ships surged forward, breaking formation as they rushed to surround the Terran position. Not firing yet, but closing, compressing space, tightening the noose. They're boxing us in, Ramos said. Trying to limit maneuvering. Elara smiled faintly. Good. That means they're not watching the belt. Dresh turned. You're thinking phase 2. Already in motion. At her silent command, drones peeled away from Terran hulls, dozens of them, small and unremarkable. They vanished into the asteroid field like insects into tall grass. Imperial sensors barely noticed. Vraxilian opened a fleet-wide channel, voice echoing with restrained fury. Terrans, you will cease hostilities and submit. You cannot win this. Elara answered without raising her voice. You've been alive a long time, High Lord. Long enough to forget what it's like to lose. Numbers decide wars. No, she said. People do. She cut the channel. Minutes stretched. No shots fired. 2 fleets stared each other down across empty space. Then the Empire advanced again, this time in force. Weapons flared. Energy bolts streaked toward the Vanguard, hammering shields. The ship shuddered but held. Terran escorts spread out, moving with controlled aggression, never clustering, never predictable. Return fire, Elara ordered. Selective targets only. Terran ships struck at sensor arrays, comm relays, power junctions. They crippled instead of killed. Every hit precise. Every strike instructional. Imperial ships began to drift. Some collided. Others fired wildly, blinded by false telemetry. On one Imperial frigate, an officer shouted, "They're inside our systems!" Another screamed, "Our orders aren't updating!" A third whispered, "They're laughing!" Vraxilian watched the tactical display unravel. This wasn't battle. This was humiliation. They refused to engage properly. He snarled. They toy with us. An aide hesitated. High Lord, perhaps we should reassess. Their methods are unfamiliar. Vraxilian turned slowly. We do not reassess primitives. On the Vanguard, Elara watched the Empire's formation fray. Captain, Dresh said quietly, we've made our point. Yes, she replied. But they haven't learned yet. She opened a narrow band channel to the disabled destroyer still drifting between fleets. This is Captain Miles, she said evenly. You're alive because we chose restraint. Relay that to your commander. Next time, we may choose differently. The channel closed. The Empire hesitated. Then, reluctantly, their fleet pulled back, just a fraction. Enough to breathe. Elara allowed herself one slow exhale. That's lesson 2, she murmured. Lesson 3 will hurt more. Outside, the stars watched in silence as the Galactic Empire, for the first time in centuries, began to understand fear. The Empire attacked at dawn, if dawn meant anything in the cold vacuum of space. There was no warning this time. No ceremony. No speeches. The Imperial fleet surged forward in full assault formation, weapons blazing, space tearing with concentrated fire. Energy lances cut across the void, brilliant and violent, slamming into Terran shields. The Vanguard shuddered as power rerouted automatically, decks humming with controlled strain. Shields at 92% and holding, Ramos reported, fingers flying. Multiple hostile vectors. They're committing everything. Elara stood at the center of the bridge, calm as still water. Good. That means they're done pretending. Dresh glanced at her. Phase 3? She nodded once. Spring it. Across Veilthura's asteroid belt, space woke up. What the Empire had catalogued as inert rock bloomed with hidden heat signatures. Rail platforms unfolded from camouflage sheathing. Drones activated in silence. Mines drifted free, invisible until they weren't. Imperial sensors lagged behind reality. Enemy fleet entering the belt, Ramos said. They're not slowing. They won't, Elara replied. They don't know how. The first Imperial cruiser exploded, not from a direct hit, but from its own reactor surging out of tolerance after an EMP mine slipped past its shields. Another lost power entirely, spinning helplessly as railgun fire punched clean through its hull. On an Imperial bridge, alarm screamed. Shields are down. No, they never engaged. Our weapons won't lock. High Lord, we're losing formation. Vraxilian snarled as his command ship rocked violently. Stabilize. Push through. They're hiding behind tricks. But the tricks stacked. Terran electronic warfare flooded Imperial channels with feedback, looping distress calls and false orders. Fleet coordination fractured. Ships collided as navigation systems fed them lies. They're inside our network, an Imperial officer shouted. They anticipated our response curves, another cried. They're not reacting, a third whispered in horror. They already planned this. On the Vanguard, the tactical display looked almost serene. Red markers flickered, dimmed, vanished. Enemy cruiser disabled, Ramos said. Second one venting atmosphere. Third, Captain, they're trying to withdraw. Elara's jaw tightened. They don't get to choose the tempo now. She leaned forward. All units, execute narrowing spiral. Keep pressure. No kill shots unless necessary. Terran ships move like predators, never rushing, never clustering, always angling for blind spots. They didn't chase fleeing ships directly. They herded them, forcing Imperial vessels deeper into the belt. Dresh watched the maneuver unfold. You're boxing them into a kill corridor. Not a kill corridor, Elara corrected. A lesson corridor. Vraxilian staggered as another impact threw him against the command throne. Pain flared across his side where shrapnel cut through ceremonial armor. Report! He roared. A trembling officer answered. We've lost 40% combat capability. Several ships are surrendering independently. Surrendering? Vraxilian hissed. To them? They're broadcasting open channels, the officer said. Letting our crews hear Terran communications. On one Imperial frigate, speakers crackled to life. Adjust fire 2 degrees port. Careful, their hull's breached, don't overdo it. Another voice followed, almost bored. Copy. Keep them alive. Imperial crew members stared at each other, shaken. They're choosing not to kill us, one whispered. That's worse, another replied. One Imperial cruiser broke formation entirely, powering down its weapons. This is Captain Saruan of the Imperial fleet, came the transmission, voice tight with fear. We surrender. Cease fire. The bridge of the Vanguard went quiet. Ramos looked to Elara. Orders? Elara hesitated only a moment. Acknowledge surrender. Assign escort drones. No retaliation. The surrendering ship drifted away from the battle, untouched. The effect was immediate. Imperial morale collapsed. Ships hesitated. Orders conflicted. Some advanced blindly. Others fled. Vraxilian watched his fleet unravel, disbelief hardening into something colder. Fear. "This is not possible," he muttered. "We are the Empire." His aide spoke softly. "High Lord, they are fighting like a species that expects to lose everything if they fail." A sudden jolt rocked the command carrier. "Direct hit!" someone shouted. "Bridge hull compromised." Vraxilian was thrown to the deck, blood splattering across polished metal. The room spun. "Damage control!" he barked, forcing himself upright. "I will not die here." On the Vanguard, Dresch stiffened. "Captain, we struck their command ship. Light damage only, but—" Elara raised a hand. "Cease fire on that vessel. Now." "But—" I said now. The guns fell silent. Elara activated a direct channel. "High Lord Vraxilian," she said, voice steady. "This is Captain Elara Miles." His image flickered into view, bloodied, furious, and shaken. "You dare—" "I dare end this," she interrupted. "You've lost control of your fleet. You can keep bleeding ships into the void, or you can leave." Vraxilian sneered weakly. "You think mercy makes you strong?" "No," Elara said. "Survival does." She leaned closer to the console. "Withdraw. Take your wounded. Remember what happened when you underestimated us." Silence stretched. Then, slowly, Imperial ships began to disengage. Not all made it out. But enough did. Vraxilian's command carrier turned away, limping, pride shattered. As the last Imperial vessel vanished into warp, the battlefield fell quiet. Debris drifted. Disabled ships waited for judgment. On the Vanguard, no one cheered. Dresch exhaled. "We won." Elara stared at the empty space where the Empire had stood. "No," she said softly. "They survived." She straightened, voice firm. "And that means they'll tell the story?" Outside, the stars bore witness to a truth the galaxy would soon learn. Humanity didn't conquer through dominance. They won by making sure their enemies understood exactly how close they came to annihilation, and how deliberately it had been withheld. The smoke had cleared, what was left of it. Drifting debris littered the Veilthura system like shattered arrogance. Disabled ships floated in eerie silence, powerless. Glowing embers flickered from fractured hulls. The once proud Imperial fleet had withdrawn, limping and scattered. On the Vanguard, no one moved for several seconds. The bridge lights pulsed low, status monitors returning to green. The crew waited, still braced for impact, as if expecting the Empire to change its mind. But the war, for now, was over. Captain Elara Miles exhaled slowly and spoke. "Stand down to yellow alert. Begin recovery operations. No celebratory comms, this isn't a parade." "Aye, Captain," replied Dresch. He didn't smile. No one did. This wasn't a victory they could enjoy. It was a line drawn, firm, visible, undeniable. In the command room below, Elara watched capture telemetry from the battle. She studied every detail: Imperial formations collapsing, the chaos in their comm channels, the dread in their eyes. Not with glee. With calculation. These weren't wild enemies. They were structured, disciplined, proud. And now, they were humiliated. She tapped the screen to pause on Vraxilian's command ship. It had warped out, battered, yes, but intact. That was intentional. Dresch entered, holding a fresh data slate. "You've got an inbox full of high command updates," he said. "Some are asking if you've sparked a diplomatic crisis. Others want to decorate you." Elara raised an eyebrow. "Both at once. Predictable." He dropped into a seat across from her. "The net's already calling it the laughing stand. A Terran meme fleet even named a coffee blend after you." She shook her head, muttering, "People find comfort in humor. And you?" "I find comfort in knowing they'll hesitate next time." Hours later, she stood in front of a broad tactical holotable. The fleet was still cleaning up, recovering drones, towing disabled craft, assisting surrendered Imperials who never expected mercy. She opened a direct channel, wideband, open frequency, no encryption. The message would echo far beyond this system. This is Captain Elara Miles of the Terran Union Navy. Let it be known that Vale Thura was defended not out of conquest, but because we were here first. We did not attack. We responded. Her voice remained steady. You may choose to interpret this encounter however your pride allows. But understand this, humanity does not bow. We do not break. And we do not forget. She paused, just long enough. Let this be our introduction. The channel closed. Across hundreds of systems, her words were replayed. Among the distant fringe colonies, Terran settlers held their heads a little higher. In neutral sectors, minor species whispered about alliances. In the Empire's core, nobles debated, argued, panicked. Vraxilian's name fell from glory to disgrace within hours. His peers saw his wounds not as scars of battle, but as proof of weakness. He had attacked a young species with superior numbers, and fled in shame. In a quiet chamber lit by golden flame, Vraxilian stood before the Imperial High Table. Their judgment would be slow, calculated, cruel. But he knew one thing. He would return. The wound he carried burned deeper than the one on his flesh. Back on the vanguard, Elara leaned over the forward viewing pane. The Vale Thura sun cast long shadows across her features. The wreckage drifted beyond, bathed in pale orange. Dresh approached silently. Final tallies in. No Terran casualties. Minimal structural damage. Empire lost 14 vessels, 6 surrendered, and 7 more limped away with severe damage. She nodded, not turning around. We held back. Some think we should have finished them. If we had, she said, we'd be fighting a different war tomorrow. One we couldn't win with clever tricks. He stood beside her, hands behind his back. What do you think happens next? They'll regroup. Retaliate, eventually. Or they'll send diplomats with sharp smiles and veiled threats. Either way, we've changed something. Dresh glanced sideways. We? Humanity. The crew didn't celebrate. But there was a shift. Engineers moved with more purpose. Gunnery crews recalibrated systems with pride. Young officers who had once wondered what it meant to wear a Terran uniform now knew. It meant you didn't flinch. Even when the stars turned hostile. A calm ping brought Elara back to the present. She accepted it. Captain Miles, said Admiral Lane, face hard-lined and formal, but voice lower than usual. You've caused quite a ripple. The Union Council wants to debrief you in person. Understood. They're divided. Some want a show of force. Others want a treaty. And you? Lane's lips twitched slightly. I want more officers like you. But maybe don't give your next speech to half the galaxy without warning. Elara gave a half-smile. No promises. The call ended. Later, alone in her quarters, she wrote the official report. Facts, tactics, damage logs? Then she opened a personal log and paused. How do you explain to future captains that sometimes, the greatest power isn't the weapons you fire, but the ones you don't? She spoke quietly into the mic. We held our ground today. Not because we're the strongest, but because we refused to blink first. That matters. More than numbers. More than legacy. A pause. They came expecting fear. They found restraint. And that shook them more than blood ever could. She ended the recording. Outside, Vale Thura turned slowly in its orbit, unchanged, uncaring. But for the first time in galactic history, a new name was being whispered through every corridor of power. Terrans. Not as primitives. Not as pests. But as a problem. And problems demanded solutions. Elara knew this wasn't the end. It was only the opening line. And humanity had just introduced itself with a grin.